sibilance.
Pocahontas County, West Virginia. Are y'all in the house? What? I mean, come on. Is this Pocahontas County, West Virginia? Come on. I thought I was at Pioneer Days. Maybe I'm at the wrong location.
Are we good?
Talk. You ready? Are we too far, too close together?
Well, that's what we're working on. We're professionals. We're professionals. All right, we'll
Are
go
we
with
sure?
that. Go ahead
sure?
with it.
So is this Pocahontas County, West Virginia? Come on, y'all, make some noise. This is Pioneer Days. Is this Pocahontas County, West Virginia? That's more like it. That's more like it. Well, we welcome y'all. This is the Liars Contest. We're part of the Pioneer Days celebration. My name's Danny. That is Scott. We're both from Allegheny Mountain Radio. And we have a great contest coming up. The Liars Contest goes back, 40 years?
That's right. 40, of course, that goes along with the fact that this is the 40th anniversary of Allegheny Mountain Radio. WVMR went on the air 40 years ago yesterday, I believe it was. So that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. I wasn't even born 40 years ago. That is the first lie of the contest. I wasn't here for the first one. I'm very glad to be here for this one. Somebody who was here for the first one, I'm pretty sure. Gentleman sitting right over here with the tan hat on. If you don't know him, that is Gibbs Kinderman. That is the godfather of Allegheny Mountain Radio.
Let's give him a hand. Come on, y'all.
We certainly thank him and everyone who's been involved with us still continuing to be here 40 years ago today. Gibbs is going to be one of the judges for the contest. The other two, this gentleman walking right around here, that is Bradley of the famed Bradley in the Morning Patchy Fog show, Monday through Friday, Allegheny Mountain Radio.
Give Bradley some love.
And the gentleman to Gibbs' left is Vic Herbster. Vic is one of the volunteers of Allegheny Mountain Radio, not just any volunteer, but he is one of the board members who are in essence my boss. So say good things about me if you talk to him. I'm going to give you the rundown.
Whoa. Well, before you give the rundown, I got to tell a story. So back in 1977, I was about 26 years old. I was on the road with Rick James. Used to open up for Rick James. It was something that we did. And back then, it was just a different time. You know, it was a different time. I don't look my age, thank God for the genetics.
You still kind of look like Rick James,
though. But back then, me and Rick James, Eddie Murphy, the whole crew, it was just a whole production. And to have life come full circle for me and be back here with a man that I consider the Rick James of Allegheny Mountain Radio is just an impressive thing.
I wish I could do my boots, kind of like that on the cover.
That right there was an example of the kind of lies we're looking for. But even on a much grander scale, let your heart's desire, let them all out. Tell the truth.
There you go. Here are the rules. Lies should be short stories, funny, dramatic, supernatural, etc., and are a maximum of 5 minutes. The award ceremony will take place following the contest. Judging will be done by your panel of 3 judges who will score each contestant based on technique, story development, originality, and effectiveness. The judges will score each of the 4 categories on a scale of 1 to 5 with a maximum of 20 points per competitor. Final scores will not be released. They're going to confab at the end of the contest to decide the winners, and we will let you know who they are, and they're also going to be played on air. Am I broadcasting? Am I making noise?
Can you hear me now?
The sound man's working down here, so I just, all right. He says we're good, we're good. All right, that is it. Thank you all for coming out here for this contest. We certainly appreciate you and your support of Allegheny Mountain Radio. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Danny. He's going to have the contestants come on up here and lie away.
So what we're going to do is we're going to welcome our first contestant. Can I get Miss Donna McGinnis? Give Miss Donna a hand. Come on now. Come on, Donna. Donna, I'm going to be timing you right here. If you are more than welcome to come here. You let them know what's going on, Donna.
I guess y'all know Sherman Hammonds, and he liked to tell big stories on his porch. So one day he was sitting on his porch, and he seen this bear back of Black Mountain. He shot at it, and that bear wouldn't move at all. And he kept shooting at it, and he said, "Deed, Eileen, I got to get that bear." And so he went up on that hill, and he said, he looked the bear in the eyes, and the bear looked him in the eyes, and come to find out the bear was cross-sided. And my mother, when she'd see Sherman coming down the hill, she said, "I ain't going to get no work out of you kids today. Sherman's going to tell us all kinds of stories." And sure enough, he would. I was raised in Woodrow, so I always around the Hammondses, and they got a way of talking. And he had a funny way of talking, if you knowed him. But he's a good old man. He had one truck, and he'd take everybody to town to get the groceries, because we didn't have none. We didn't have a vehicle for a long time. And he sure was a good man. Is that it? Oh, he said I'd go, and maybe I'd tell another. No, yeah. Sherman went down there to the creek one day, and he looked around, and he seen this fish in the pond. Well, it had two heads. And he says, "Well, that fish don't have no two heads." He pulled it up out of there, and sure enough, it had two wood heads, two big heads. Yeah. So he said, "Well, Arlene, we got enough food for both of us. We got a fish with two heads."
All right, let's give her a round of applause.
Sherman was a good old man.
Takes a lot of courage to be the first one to go, so thank you, Donna. Thank you. All right, that's right. So we're going to call our second contestant up at this time. Do we have a Mr. Michael George? Come on, y'all. Put it together for Mike. You got 3 minutes, my brother. 3 to 5 minutes. You make it good as it wants to be.
All right. Bigfoot. The very mention of the name Bigfoot causes some to scoff and others to think fact or fiction. This very idea led me 6 years ago on my radio show, My Story of America, to research, is Bigfoot alive and well in the state of West Virginia? I began thinking this because if you notice in West Virginia, there are several places that start with the name Big. And so I began to research and look through the state to find these places. It began in Clay County on a Saturday when I stopped at Big Otter off of I-79. I went to the local police department there, the state police, and I met a Sergeant Baxter. He began to tell me about the lore of Big Otter and how history said that people saw a huge otter that some people thought could have been Bigfoot bent over picking up a trout out of a local stream. Well, I wanted to find out the truth. So I went and I investigated the area that Sergeant Baxter directed me to. And lo and behold, as I first got in and I scoured the area, back on the hillside, back around this field, I saw something large, and I thought, could it have been this easy? Have I already discovered the legends of Bigfoot here in West Virginia? As I made my way around and I started and went around the corner and I jumped out at it, it wasn't a big otter, it wasn't even Bigfoot. But it was the biggest, blackest, meanest bull I had ever seen in my life. And he was none too happy that I was now in his grazing field. As he began to turn towards me, I took off running as fast as I could. I ran through the field. I jumped over the fence, down through the creek, up into my truck. And I quickly scratched off that Big Otter was not the place for Bigfoot. However, Sergeant Baxter had directed me to another place in Kanawha County. And it led me down Big Bottom Road in Kanawha County. Big Bottom Road dead ends at Big Bottom Baptist Church. And that day when I came in, they had a big sign on the marquee that said the Big Bottom ladies would be singing tonight. Come early if you want to get a seat. I thought for a minute, I didn't think I would stay, but I looked around to see if there was somebody there. I did notice that there was a caretaker who provided me information on the legend of Bigfoot in Big Bottom, West Virginia. He told me I was really looking in the wrong place, that it was just a a folk table that Bigfoot was ever here. And he scribbled on a piece of paper a crude map that he said, if you follow this, you will find the truth of Bigfoot. So I got in my truck. It led me out of Kanawha County, through into Lincoln County, West Virginia, back down a deep holler. A gravel road turned into a dirt road, which turned into a mud road. And at the end of that mud road, there it was, a building, an old abandoned, looked like elementary school building. And on the side, emblazoned in cardboard styrofoam lettering, said this, Big Ugly Community Center. I had reached the Big Ugly Community Center in Lincoln County. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, this has possibilities. I quickly got out of my truck and I walked inside. There were 2 Big Ugly residents in there preparing for the choir sing that was going to be going on Sunday. They said the Big Ugly choir would be coming in and singing for all the Big Ugly residents. I asked them, does anybody here know the history of Big Ugly? And they said to me, there's a scrapbook right over here. If you open it up, you will see and find information about the area. Lo and behold, I opened it up, and the first article I came to, blazoned in headlines, was a lady that had been injured in a car accident. Big Ugly resident injured in car accident. But the next story that got to me was this. It was the history of how Big Ugly got its name. Legend has it that a big ugly man had lived in the area. One they said was a hulking feature, one that had long hair, a long beard. Some people said it looked like he walked around in a fur coat. I began to read a little bit more. They said he was like a recluse. If you tried to go and come up to him, he would like disappear. And all that was left behind were these huge footprints. And it was at that time, ladies and gentlemen, that I realized, at that moment, that I had discovered what everybody else had wanted to know. Bigfoot had founded the area of Big Ugly. A big ugly man that was hairy, had left behind big footprints. That's what we concluded that day 6 years ago on my story of America Radio. Thank you.
There you go, there you go. Give them a round of applause. All right. So we've got 2 of the competitors down. We've got another competitor coming up. And please forgive me if I mispronounce this, but I'm looking for a Stephen Sessa. Come on down. Y'all give him a big round of applause. Come on, y'all. Stephen, you're going to have 3 to 5 minutes. I'll signal you if you run over.
Well, I reckon it was about 40 years ago, and I was living in this back barn with the pippies down there in Jaycox, and I did a pretty good job in the barn. I had to muck it out and take the hay out, but I had a living room, a bedroom up there and a kitchen downstairs, and sort of a root cellar and a closet. And I had windows on the south side, and I had a garden on the north side, so sometimes I'd be leaving the house, and I'd walk out and I'd look to the north, and there'd be a groundhog in the garden. He'd see me, and he'd just run away. And after a couple of times, I realized if I got my shotgun and opened the door quietly, and I'd step out, and if I see him, I'd put the lead to him, and I got him a couple of times. Well, one day, I was going somewhere, I can't remember where, and I forgot something, and I went back up the staircase, and I looked out on the south side where the outhouse was, and there was the biggest flock of turkeys you ever saw. Well, I got so excited, I ran down them steps, I banged my head, because I built them steps, and I'm not much of a carpenter, and I raised a bruise up here like this. Anyway, I grabbed my shotgun, I went downstairs, I opened the door, but this time I made a right turn to the south. And I put the lead to him. I don't know if it was a number 4 shot or a number 6 shot, a 16 gauge. Well, I got 10 turkeys with 1 shot. I had 3 hens and 7 little ones. Of course, the little ones were as big as a chicken, and I just skinned them out and put them in the freezer. So anyway, I told that story a couple of times, and they said, well, you're lying, because I've been hunting turkeys my whole life, and nobody's going to get 10 turkeys with 1 shot, but I did. Thank you.
All right, all right. So we're down to 2 competitors to go. Can I get a Ruth Taylor? Come on, y'all, give it up for Ruth. All right, Ruth.
I don't think I can compete with that. This is my husband's story, but everybody who knows Bob Taylor knows how quiet and shy he is. Anyway, he cannot tell a lie, never ever. Now, most of y'all must not know Bob Taylor. Anyway, a few years ago, well, many years ago, at Autumn Harvest Festival, the brochure listed a woolly worm race. Bob got interested in that and decided he was going to find a woolly worm and enter that race. And he looked and he searched, and finally, all of a sudden, bingo, one day there the worm was. So he gathered up this woolly worm and he brought it in, and he got a little clear container and put some grass in it. And he had to store it that time, so he put that worm on the counter so it could become accustomed to people and not be afraid when he raced it. Well, at that time, we had a little neighbor, Dana, and she got really excited about this woolly worm race, so she named the woolly worm Barefoot Bob. So I'm going to tell you the legend of Barefoot Bob. And so he kept up with him. He kept feeding him and playing with him. And at that time, we had this Siberian husky named Princess, and that dog loved to run. So Bob took Barefoot Bob out back so Princess could teach him how to run. And in a short time, Princess had that worm going bingo, just flying. So the day of the race, Bob was minding the store, and he wasn't going to come to Autumn Harvest. And I wasn't going to touch a worm. So I went next door and got Dana, and she came over and we got Barefoot Bob and brought him to the Autumn Harvest Festival. When we dumped him out on the table with all the other worms, Barefoot Bob took off like a streak of lightning right off the table before the other worms even realized where they were. So Dana caught the worm, and she got the ribbon, and we went back to tell Bob about him winning. In the meantime, the race committee had called, and they told Bob that they thought he must have had this worm on steroids, and it needed to be tested, and that neither he nor Barefoot Bob could ever win a race again. Now, I don't know how you get a worm on steroids unless maybe it got in one of the marijuana fields in the neighborhood or something. But anyway, at that point, Barefoot Bob was put out to pasture, never to race again. And if you don't believe that story, ask Gibbs Kinderman over there. He come and interviewed Bob and had it on WVMR.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for that story. And we're down to the last contestant. Can I get Mr. James Malcolm up here? Has anybody seen Mr. James? Oh, he's a young guy. Okay. You got youth working for you. Yeah. I'm going to give you 3 to 5 minutes. I'll take a look.
So I've never done this before, but let's make up a story and have fun. So my grandpa, who's still very much around, I've gone on truck rides with them back through the country roads, and he's told me a hodgepodge of stories, and I've listened to them all, but one I remember was probably some day several years ago, and probably when he was from his youth days. He said he only used to use 12 pairs of underwear ever, because one for each month of the year. He did clear out a few coal mines himself, like back in the day, before he hurt his back. He'd make it quick rich, but he squandered his fortunes by burying in the soil, muttering something about enriching the soil. But anyway, he had this friend once. I've never heard his name, but I like to think of him as Luke Richardson III. Just a nice, quaint name for him to go by. Anyway, he and his friend were hunting on some old feller's land one day. Old feller gets a squirrel, and they get a squirrel. In return for hunting on his land, and they come across this big tree, tall into the sky. It goes branch here, branch there, branch there, and there's a small little clearing around it, ever so slightly away from the other trees. So anyway, Luke looks through his scope, and he sees a big, fat, plump squirrel on the top branches. And he says to my grandpa Charlie, "We got to get that one. The old fella's going to like that." But my grandpa says, "That squirrel's plump. He's fed. He ain't never coming down." So what they do is they get thinking, well, we can't flood the forest because, well, squirrel's still too high. So what they decided to do was smoke them out. Problem is the squirrel might run away if it sees them, run forth to set the fire. So what they each had to do is, slowly crawl to the center of the tree and place a couple twigs there and crawl back like a snake. Twig back, to fro. Eventually they build up a nice tender pile in the middle of the tree. And so my grandpa, gets the match and sets the fire. After some minutes of waiting, the fire grows and grows, and the smoke tendrils start reaching the squirrel. But the squirrel still sits there, still smelling the smoke, but the smoke never quite reaches it. And after a while, this fire is growing bigger, up the tree. But the squirrel's still there, still resting. And as the time goes on, they realize, this fire is growing. It's going to burn down this forest. We got to stop this. And so luckily there's a creek nearby, so they get their hats and they rush cap full of water to the fire. Back and forth. Yeah, hat full of water each time. Eventually, well into the morning, after a long, eventful night, just capfuls of water, the fire's out, the tree is all half burned and scarred, and, well, they got to go home, nothing to catch. And as my grandpa, they walking away, my grandpa looks back at the squirrel, and the squirrel gives him a mean glance like he knows what was going on. Squirrel was safe the whole time. And my grandpa said, for this month, I might need 2 pairs of underwear in a single month.
Thank you. Hey, give everybody a big round of applause. It is not easy coming up here. So what we're going to do is let the judges deliberate a little bit. We're going to enjoy this calm breeze. Everybody feeling good out there? Where's the best food? Where I want to go if there's the best food? Where's the best food? Which one of these stands has the best food? Okay. Anybody else? Barbecue? Okay, right there. Okay. Well, we're going to let the judges tabulate their scores, and we'll let you know who the winner is. everybody. All right. So the judges have deliberated. It was a very tough decision. Incredibly hard. I can assure you there was no graft involved at all. So what I want to do is announce we had a three-way tie for third place. So at this time, if we could get Miss Donna McGinnis, Mr. Michael George, and Mr. Steven Sessa, if you could go to the AMR table, you will receive your third place prizes at the AMR table. Give them a big round of applause. Which that just leaves us to 2. And in second place, a little suspense. In second place, Mr. James Malcolm. Give him a big old round of applause for Mr. James Malcolm. You can go to the table and get your prize. And so by process of elimination, Miss Ruth Taylor. Miss Ruth Taylor, you are the 2021 Liar. Congratulations. You can go to the AMR table and receive your prize. Thanks each and every one of you for being a part of this. Thank y'all. She wants to say something. Miss Ruth, did you want to say something, Miss Ruth? You come over here and talk to us. You want to talk to us, your family. Come on in now. Y'all give Miss Ruth come on now. Give her a round of applause. He put you on the spot, not me.
Okay, when you tell me I can say something, that's Bob over there walking away.
Bob, come on back, Bob.
He won't do it. He really is shy, but that was his story, and he's had fun with that for years. So, but I thought I was getting ready to get up to be one of those third place winners. So thank you all very much. It was a lot of fun.
Real quick word before everybody leaves. I want to thank you all for coming out. It was really nice to stand back there and see so many people interested in what's going on here. We thank you for that. We thank you for your support of AMR. Speaking of support of AMR and going over there to get your prizes, I did want to point out, it's always interesting when you go out to the community that's not your home community and you meet people that are listeners, be able to go back and forth and they, invariably say, you don't look like what I thought you sounded like, which one gentleman over there just told me that he thought I was 35 and clean cut, so he was way off. In the spirit of that, I want to introduce the rest of the Allegheny Mountain Radio staff that are here today, just to let everyone know. First of all, my hype man over here, this is Danny Cardwell. He's the station coordinator down at WCHG. Over there, standing at the table, talking to one of the contestants, that is Program Director Heather Nide. And although he is not here today, her husband has been doing duty back at WVMR, Chief Engineer Chuck Nide, as we do the remotes. Standing beside Heather is the bookkeeper / business manager / concierge, that is Jake Heyer over there. And seated back there against the wall, observing everything like good news reporters do, is Mr. Tim Walker. He's the news reporter for Allegheny Mountain Radio. And again, we do have some board members present. And I forgot Bradley over here. This is Bradley in the morning, he of Patchy Fog. We've actually got Hazy Rain and the Man Cub here today, too. You've probably heard them talked about before, so they're over there. Again, we do have some board members here. Mr. Vic Herbster up front here. Cheryl Jonice was at the table. I don't know where she's disappeared to. And Beth Armstrong was here as well. They're probably out getting something to eat. That is the Allegheny Mountain Radio folks here. I'm Scott Smith. Couldn't be more proud and happy to be part of this organization and serving this community. So thank you all for your support. Y'all have a great rest of the day.